All right, so everyone's here. We're at the December 2021 Phoenix Tableau User Group. Welcome. It's been a little while since we've met. We're back. This is going to wrap up the year for us, but we've got great content coming up next year. So do please join us. You can subscribe to updates and follow us at usergroup.phoenixtog.com. Links right there on the slide. Again, we'll post all of that information to the chat as well. Today's agenda, we're going to go through some announcements and updates. Got some really good stuff to share. Then we're going to kick things off with our special guest presenter, and we're going to talk about gathering business requirements from Hana. We're going to talk about some Tableau performance recording. So if you're not familiar with that tool or how to track or understand what's going on in your Tableau visualizations, Mujahed is going to cover that. Do pay attention to today's sessions and things that people have to say, because we've got Tableau Trivia coming up later today. Tiffany's going to cover that, and all the content within it is being baked into the talks and all the information that we're sharing. So if you're paying attention, you got a good chance of doing well in Tableau Trivia. And to our top three contestants that finish on top, we've got some really cool prizes for you. Anything left after that, we'll cover, we'll chat about, open communication, and then we'll try to wrap it up close to about 2:30 Mountain Standard Time today. All right, so I'd like to welcome our Tableau User Group leadership team. We've got Tiffany, Mujahed, and myself, Michael. We're excited to be back with you again at the end of the year, wrapping this up. As I mentioned before, we have a huge content that we're going to be sharing starting in January. So again, please do follow us, subscribe to our updates. We're also going to be kicking off some workshop series and sessions. So if you're brand new to Tableau or you're looking to upskill in certain areas, we're going to be starting off our workshop series again. So we're really excited to bring you all that. All right, for those of you that are newer to Tableau or looking to upskill, we always recommend this. Go out to the Tableau e-learning page, elearning.tableau.com. We want you to get acclimated to the product, the industry as a whole, data visualization, and it doesn't matter if you're designing in Tableau Desktop or you're a server admin, a data scientist, an executive sponsor, or a community leader. There's content out there for everyone. It's a great way to get engaged. Next month, in January, we're going to cover all of what's new in new release of 21.4. So this was just released last week. Tons and tons of new features and capabilities have been baked into this product. If you're a server admin like myself, rejoice. There is so much good stuff. Can't even begin to cover it in one session. But for all the developers and content leaders and executives, there's something for everyone. And we're going to dive into that next month. So do sign up, get registered for our updates. We will be sending out some invites in the next couple of weeks for our meeting. Going forward, we will be meeting on the third Thursday of every month from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's Mountain Standard Time. So early lunch and learn type thing would be great. Certification. We're all about certification, upskilling, showing that you know how to use Tableau. And if you've been paying attention, you've noticed that Tableau's done quite a bit of changes to their certification lineup. Removed most of all the professional exams, removed some associate exams, and supplemented with a new one, the data analyst exam. So do check these out. Again, for those of you that are brand new to Tableau, always recommend start off with the Tableau Desktop Specialist. This is great for you to understand the foundational knowledge of Tableau, all the terminology, and just being well-rounded in the product. So any questions or anything like that, again, let us know. We're happy to help. I think most of us have been through these certifications or one time or another, so we're pretty acclimated to what you need to know and how to perform well on these. Stay up to date with Tableau events, information coming up. This is also a great way to see what's coming up on other user groups, industry leaders, virtual. Pretty much everything's virtual. But check this out. We just wrapped up our TC Tableau Conference 2021, all on demand. So if you did miss out on the conference, check out the events page. You can still sign up, watch, and interact with some of the sessions that went on. A lot of great content. And community, big part of why we're here today. If you're not part of the Tableau community, do go out, sign up. You can go to community.tableau.com, register an account. It's free. You can engage with other user groups on the forums, ask questions, participate, help others, search for issues, get inspiration, a lot of topics, events, announcements, fun stuff. But please sign up for the Tableau community. This is a great way to stay engaged with us. We're social as well. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and the community itself. So we're here for you. As part of the e-learning that we covered a few slides ago, this is absolutely free, this particular topic, data literacy for all. This is the foundational knowledge everybody in every organization needs to be familiar with. So if you haven't signed up for e-learning or you haven't gone through the data literacy program, please do this. It's a quick way to get exposure to not just Tableau in general. This is foundational knowledge in data literacy and data visualization and just data terminology in general. This will help you get started on the right foot. So go to the Tableau website. You got the link there, tableau.com/learn/data-literacy. It is absolutely free, no cost. And this will kickstart your e-learning and educational journey. So go ahead and do that. All right, so we're going to kick things off. I want to present Hana. Hana is a data visualization specialist with Trending Analytics. You can find her on her website, on LinkedIn and Twitter. We'll share some more information about how to get in touch with Hana. We're going to learn a lot about business requirements and knowing your audience and how do we capture that information. Hana, are you online? Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Michael, for the introduction. I can go ahead and start sharing my screen if that sounds good to you.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today and for joining. I know it's lunchtime, or at least it's 12 o'clock here my time, and I think it's around lunchtime for you. So I really appreciate you showing up today. And I'm really excited to talk about knowing your audience and gathering requirements. First off, I do want to introduce myself. My name is Hana, and I have been working in the data industry for about 8 years now. I started in academia and before moving to work in the industry. And before that, I was a geographer. And my first data visualization was actually a map. And I realized that I really enjoy working with data. And I decided to actually pivot and work in the industry as a data analyst and database specialist. So first, let's address why you should even bother with getting to know your audience. Like, why can't you just open up Tableau and just jump straight into creating a really awesome business? So I actually want to share a story from when I was an undergrad student. I used to be a student journalist for a magazine. And to this day, I still distinctly remember this one line I read in my training, and that was, "Reader is king." And I know that phrase is isn't phrased in the most inclusive way. And, mind you, this training was from like over a decade ago. But the point was that your reader is royalty, and it's about serving them. They are the priority, not you. And the reason why it was really important to emphasize this was because as writers, we're talking about student journalists, right? Like we often write for ourselves, or, we just enjoy it as a craft. And we assume that just because like we can understand it, we assume that so can our audience. And so this phrase was really emphasized to us to remind us that we write for our readers, not for ourselves. And we should be keeping them in mind because they are the priority. So when I started to work in the data field, I took the same approach with how I present data to my audience. And I kept reminding myself that I should be keeping my viewers or my audience in mind, even when it comes to data visualizations. So this is why I recommend that the first thing you do is to get to know your audience first, even before you start designing or sketching your data vises. And that's because, your data viz may actually look a little bit different depending on who your target audience is. So definitely recommend first identifying who your target audience is and getting to know a little bit more about them. And I'll show you how you can do that. And this can also help make sure that your visualizations don't end up collecting dust. And I call this making dust-free dashboards, until I find a better name for this. And you can have really well-designed visualizations and even informative ones, but if they are not relevant to your target audience, then your audience may actually probably only look at it once and then not reference it again because it's not providing them the information that they need. So then it's going to end up collecting dust. And I know none of us want that because we put in a lot of hard work to make these data visualizations. So it would suck if it's only used once and never again. So let's look at some questions that I recommend that you answer about your audience. And don't worry about noting down these questions because I will send a handout later with all these questions listed. So, just don't worry about taking notes. I just want you to look at what the questions that I put on the slides and think about why they will be helpful in answering before you design your viz. So I've grouped these questions into categories based on how I think these questions can help you with your data viz projects. You can obviously ask more questions than the ones I have. This is just a starting point and some ideas for you to just so you can get to know your audience a little bit better. And I found them to be helpful for me. And the first set we're going to be looking at will help you select the relevant insights for your data viz project if you've already completed your project or your data work. But if you are, for instance, just starting your data project, this can also help you with creating research questions that are targeted for your audience. So the first set is asking what motivates your target audience. What are their concerns or what keeps them up at night? And these questions, they sound very similar, but I still have them listed here because sometimes one question may kindle or trigger you to have more answers. So just use whatever helps you and helps you basically get into the minds of your target audience. And these questions will also, since many of you work in the industry, they'll help you identify the business concerns or problems or needs that your audience has. And that way you can incorporate that in your work. Then you also want to think about why would and should they be interested in this particular topic that your data viz is going to cover. And if you've answered the previous questions, you may be able to connect some of their motivations and concerns with this topic. I mean, it'll be great if you can do that because then it'll make them feel like this topic is actually very relevant to them and they'll pay attention to it. So it'll be great if you can, again, connect the concerns or motivations of your target audience with the topic that your project will be covering. Now we're going to look at the next set of questions. And this one I think will help you with figuring out what to include in your viz itself and how to present them. So think about what information does your target audience wish they could access easily and how often they need this information. And it sounds obvious, but this would actually be what you want to make sure your charts are conveying, the information that they want to access, that they need to access. And also keeping in mind how often they need this information can help you determine how the recency of the data or how often you need to update your data visualizations or your dashboards. Then you also want to think about what questions do they ask about this topic or wonder about. And you can use these questions to determine what charts to make, but also I recommend, and I do this often, is I take those questions that they often have about this topic and I use them as chart titles. And they love it when I do this because it makes it so much easier for them to find the information they need because you're phrasing the question in their own words. Sometimes you can rephrase it, but it's the question they know they're asking and they often need to ask. And it's easy for them to find the chart in, let's say you're delivering a dashboard and there's several charts, it'll be easy for them to find which chart they need to answer that particular question. So that's one tip. And then you can also think about what message are you trying to convey to your audience? What's the main takeaway that you want them to, that you want to leave them with? And these actually can also be good chart titles to convey that message. Maybe not so if you're connecting to data that may change and it may cause like the answer or the main takeaway to change. But this is also another strategy that you can use, that you can consider using, is having the main takeaway as your chart title. So again, this set of questions that I just covered in the last couple of slides will help you figure out what to include in your viz and how to present them. And I will be sending you these questions. And we're going to take a look at the last set of questions regarding getting to know your audience. And that's possibly some extra context that your target audience may need. And that's for them to understand not only your viz, but also the topic that you're covering in these visualizations. So again, remember that you serve your target audience and they take priority. You may understand some concepts really well, but consider if they will understand that. Think about if they need some extra context. So I have a couple of questions for you to answer. You can think about what's their level of knowledge when it comes to this topic and what terms or concepts would you have to explain in order for them to understand both the topic as well as the visualizations. And my tip for that is that in whatever you answer to these questions, you can put that in the caption or subtitles of your data visualizations so that your audience can reference them as they're looking at the data visualizations. You could, send a separate README or document, but often people won't have that always open whenever they're referencing your visualization. So that's why I recommend putting this in your caption or subtitles. Then also think about what's their level of graphical knowledge. And you might have heard the term graphicacy. That's what it is. And basically, it's the knowledge of different types of charts and how to interpret them. And based on this answer, you can either limit the charts that you deliver to ones that your target audience would be familiar with, but you can also introduce new charts that they haven't seen before and basically increase their graphicacy. But you just need to make sure that you add instructions in the deliverables on how to interpret them or you demo. And that way you're actually increasing or improving their graphical knowledge while also being able to convey your insights from your data using a new graph that you have never seen before. All right, so right now what I want you to do is to take your right hand and reach over your back and just give yourself a good pat in the back, because at this point, if you do all this, you've identified who your target audience is and you've gotten to know them. And it's going to really reflect in your work that you've thought about who your audience is, and it'll help you make visualizations that your audience will use and benefit from. And it's okay if you aren't able to answer all the questions that I have listed here, because you can also talk to people that know your target audience, or you can talk to them directly and fill in the blanks that you need. And it's possible you don't need the answers to all of these. Maybe whatever you can answer is sufficient for you to actually understand your audience better and be able to work on the projects that you want to deliver to them. But just know that, a lot of people skip this step. So you're going to be ahead of a lot of other folks who don't get to know their audience or don't even know who their target audience is. And it will really reflect in your work. Now, the next step or the next half of this presentation is going to be about gathering requirements. And I purposely put this at this point because in order to gather requirements, it's one of the first things you should do is to get to know your audience, or, identify who your target audience is, which is something we've already covered. So now we can talk about eliciting or gathering requirements. And this is different from getting to know your audience, although, you could get to know them during this process as well, because gathering requirements focuses more on the specific requirements of your project for this target audience. So first, let's talk about why we should gather or elicit requirements before you start your database projects. It can help uncover requirements that sometimes even stakeholders or your target audience are unclear about. They may not even know what they need versus want. And it's your job to elicit these requirements by asking questions and follow-up questions that will help uncover these hidden or assumed needs. And knowing the requirements can also help you plan and more accurately scope the necessary work that's needed. And it can also help avoid confusion early on, because by gathering requirements, both you and your target audience or your stakeholders are clear on what should be done and what is expected of the deliverables. And you can also see this gathering of requirements not just as a time for you to only ask questions and for them to give answers. You can also provide feedback during these discussions on, what is feasible, which ones can be lower priority or unfeasible. So you can make this a discussion, and a very productive one too. So now that we've talked about why we should gather requirements, let's talk about how to actually elicit them. You should come prepared with questions, and I am sharing some sample questions, and I'll send them over to you as well after this meeting that you can ask, but yours should look a little bit different. So use my sample questions as like a starting point or a template, and yours should be different because it should be specific to the project that you're working on. And also be aware that you can come prepared with questions to ask your target audience, but you may actually have follow-up ones that come up as you're speaking to your target audience and as they're giving you answers. So you cannot be 100% prepared for these meetings, and it's good to actually think of follow-up questions on the spot, or realize when you need to prod more and actually dig a little bit deeper into certain things that your audience seems to be unclear about. So I'm just going to share a screenshot of these questions I'm going to send over to you. We're not going to go over these. I just wanted to give you a sneak peek. And again, these questions they're just a starting point. You can use them as a template. All of these may not apply to you, and change them as you need them for your specific projects. I found these to be helpful, and starting conversations with the stakeholders and getting the necessary information I need in order for me to do my work to the best of my abilities. So again, I'll be sending these questions as well as the ones we talked earlier about getting to know your audience to you after this meeting. Oops. All right. So once you've prepared your questions, next you want to set up a meeting with your target audience. And I recommend doing in-person or virtual meeting rather than doing it over email or through DMs, because I found that gathering requirements often requires back and forth and a lot of prodding, and it's just easier if it's done face-to-face through a virtual or in-person meeting, especially if this is the first time you're meeting your target audience. Now, a tip I have about this, though, is to really, really try your best in only inviting your target audience or those stakeholders only to this meeting. There may be other people who want to join this meeting, like your boss or your team members, but tactfully tell them that you'll meet with them separately and that you want to keep this meeting small and focused on the target audience so that you can keep people on track. And that's because, if you invite other people, they may have their own thoughts and opinions and input, and you want to make sure that you're just focusing on your target audience and that they have time and space to actually talk about their requirements and their needs. So then, hopefully you're able to make a meeting with your target audience and ask those prepared questions that you had drafted earlier on. And after the meeting, the last tip I want to share before I wrap this up is that after the meeting, I highly recommend that you document the agreed upon requirements that you discussed with your stakeholders and share it with your stakeholders the same week or a few days later. And you'll thank me for this later, because in the future, there may be some discussions that come up about a topic that you've already discussed and agreed upon, and you can point to this documentation and remind folks that, we've already decided on this, and that way you keep the conversations productive and you actually progress with these conversations. And that's really understandable, especially in our field of work. When it comes to data visualization projects, they can span months, right? Like it can be weeks to months, and it's really helpful. And sometimes let's give people the benefit of the doubt. People can forget. Even you, as the actual data visitor, can forget about some of these decisions that were made. So it'll help both you and the stakeholders if you have documentation of these requirements, and it'll keep the conversations and future discussions really focused and productive. So that was the last tip I wanted to share. And I'm not sure if we have time for questions right now. No worries. If not, I can wait until the end, or I can also share. I'll pull up my slide with my contact info. You can send questions to me through my email, as well as my LinkedIn and Instagram handle. My handle is actually constant across all platforms, so you can also find me on Twitter and TikTok. And it's just been really great meeting with you all and talking with you today. And I hope we can keep in touch. And I'll also be starting a podcast soon about visualizing and presenting data. So if you want to stay updated with that, you can make sure that you email me, and I'll add you to my mailing list where I give these updates. So yeah, thank you again, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Hannah. I've got a couple questions, and for anyone else on the call, if you've got any questions for Hannah, go ahead and post those into the chat. On the scheduling meetings with target audience, we find sometimes that developers work, with business liaisons and not necessarily directly with the target audience. How do you recommend to approach it in that manner?
Sorry, can you repeat that part about your target audience? They're not the ones who are actually I guess they're not aware about the business concerns, and the target audience is working with the business liaisons?
Yeah, usually you may have like a business analyst or someone in the business that might be handling the requirements that hands off to a developer. So you may not get to actually talk directly to the target audience. And in that manner, what's your recommendations on, having those same conversations, or are the conversations different?
Good. Yeah, good question. And yeah, that's a good point that if you ideally, like if you can talk to your target audience, like the ones who, I guess the target audience in this case are the ones who will actually be using and viewing your data visualizations. Try your best if you can reach out. It's ideal to talk to them directly, because I think it'll be left to these business liaisons or business analysts to do the actual prodding and interviewing of the target audience, and they may not have the proper training. Maybe they do, and they can gather those requirements. But often what I see that gets kind of lost in translation, or more like a telephone game, is like people confuse wants with needs and vice versa. And that's something that it's easier for you to distinguish if you're the one actually in the meeting directly with the target audience. But let's say if you can, like, let's say your hands are tied and you're the developer who gets handed off these requirements, then I recommend actually then meeting with those business analysts or liaisons and asking them these questions, these prepared questions. And if they cannot answer them, to just request that they meet directly with their stakeholders and get those answers to you. But again, it may not be the best. The quality of those answers may not be as good as if you had met with them first. And it's possible that, I think what I found, that when that happens is that often more follow-up meetings are needed with these business analysts who are giving you these requirements, just to make clear that, just to clarify some things, or make clear that you understand the requirements well. And also to follow up with some initial sketches or prototypes for them to sign off on, but also to send to their stakeholders to sign off on. So yeah, it's a tricky situation, but if you can, just try your best to see if you can meet with your stakeholders directly, or at least have them included in the meeting, so you can have your business liaisons as well as the stakeholders in the meeting, so that you can talk to them directly. And you can say something like, it's not like you don't trust the business analyst, but you can tell them, like, I found it easier for me to ask follow-up questions and reduce the back and forth if they're in the same meeting. And it'll just maybe be just this one meeting, so they're not too worried about several meetings happening like this.
Great, thank you. We had a question from Carl on how you walk your target audience through the development lifecycle. And I think my question was very similar, with change management and iterations that usually you'll go through in data visualization and things like that. how do you approach that?
Yeah, this is definitely something to do separate from the meeting where you're gathering the requirements with them. And what I do is I usually either in my follow-up meeting afterwards, when I'm sending over the documented requirements, I share a rough timeline and the development cycle with them, get their inputs, or you can, set up a separate meeting about that. But usually it's I found that you don't really need a meeting for that. It's just conveying or just communicating your timeline with them. And I do have several checkpoints that I do have after the requirements gathering phase, where I let them know when I have a sketch or a prototype ready, and that way I can get some early feedback. And I like to do this. I really recommend doing prototyping or wireframing your data viz before investing more time into your dashboard or your visualizations, because it's possible they may have thought of something later, or they want to go in a different direction, and it'll allow them to feel like they're getting to give their inputs into the development of this. They feel involved and they're happier, I found, when they feel more involved and more aware of what's going on. So I recommend scheduling a checkpoint with them where you're showing them this prototype or wireframe you have prepared, getting their feedback, and then after that, actually delivering a high fidelity version of your dashboard or a draft of it and getting their input again. And that way they feel like their voice is being heard. They feel like they can give feedback, and there's less back and forth later, or you're not making as many changes as you would have if you had just went straight to like just delivering the end product, and then they're kind of like shocked by it, or they may have like a lot of input and they may end up asking you to go in a different direction, even though you've already invested a lot of time into a particular feature. So that's what I recommend.
Fantastic. All right. Again, take a screenshot, copy the information down. We also posted in the chat ways to get in touch with Hana. So please do that. Look forward to the podcast, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Mujahed, are you with us?
Yep. Thanks, Hana, for the amazing presentation. I'll just share my screen in a moment. I think my screen should be visible now. All right.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. So, hey everyone, thanks for joining in. My name is Mujahed Syed, and I'm a business intelligence analyst at Useready, and I've been using Tableau Desktop for just a little over 3 years now. So, like we saw in the previous presentation by Hana, you get to know your audience, you gather your requirements, you build out some amazing visualizations, and you're just ready to, put your workbook into production. You're ready to share it out to the target audience, and you're all excited. But you suddenly notice that your workbook is, and you're wondering that is the load time of this workbook or this specific dashboard, is it taking a little longer than it should? So in order to sort of correctly figure out what exactly is slowing down your workbook, to find out what's slowing the specific element which is contributing to the slowness of your dashboard, you can use a performance recording feature which is available in Tableau to evaluate your workbook. This is especially a good idea if you actually plan to put the dashboard into production and share it out widely within the organization. So the performance recording feature in Tableau records performance information about key events as you interact with a workbook. You can then view those performance metrics in a packaged workbook that Tableau creates. It basically gives out a packaged Tableau workbook when you start and end the performance recording of your workbook. And this workbook basically gives you information wherein you can analyze and troubleshoot different events that are known to affect performance. So before we even dive into the demo, let's actually take a step back and think about why performance is an important aspect to consider. So like we all know, first impressions last forever. And this is exactly why you want to make like a solid, good first impression of whichever dashboard or workbook you're putting out there. And then your users or the target audience takes good performance as an indication of the quality, reliability, and trustworthiness of your data, their data. And just like with any other app, product, or website, users will definitely leave if things take too long to load or are just, sort of frustrating. So one thing you don't want to do with your dashboards is provide bad user experience or, slow load times. So this is exactly why performance is important, and you should always care about performance before actually putting your dashboards or workbooks into production. Now that we know why we should care about the performance of your workbook, let's look at 4 key components of performance in Tableau, which are usually the reason for slowness of your dashboards. So first we have query time. This is basically the time required to get the data from the underlying data source. You could be using a live connection, you could be using an extract, but this is, again, sort of like impacted by the size of data, the query complexity, and the performance of the underlying data source itself. Next, you have the rendering time. And this is basically the time Tableau takes to render worksheets and visualizations based on the query results and calculations which you have. Next, we have layout time. And this is the time which Tableau takes to parse the workbook XML. If you don't already know, all of your Tableau packaged workbooks are basically XML files. So the time Tableau takes to parse the workbook XML and compute the dashboard layout based on the design and external factors such as the browser or the screen size. Now, often while designing dashboards, if you develop dashboards, you must be seeing a little dimension option on the left side. We'll see this during our demo, where you can choose the dashboard size to be automatic or custom. And this is another important factor which impacts the layout time, depending on what dimensions of your dashboard you're choosing. Lastly, we have the calculation time. And this is basically just the time Tableau takes to run calculations that are not done at the data source level or in your DB. They could be aggregations, LOD calcs, window calcs, etc. And having too many of them is also a factor that contributes to bad performance. So with that being said, let's jump right into the demo. I'm going to reshare my screen in a moment. Before we even start doing a performance recording in Tableau, it's actually important that you close out all of your currently open. Just a moment, let me share my screen. So it's really important that you close out all of your currently open Tableau desktop windows if you're working on anything currently. This is because you don't want Tableau's cache to contribute to the performance recording of the dashboard or the workbook which you're actually going to evaluate. So right now I have all my Tableau desktop windows closed. I'm going to go ahead and open a new Tableau desktop window. Right. So this is what you see when you just open up a new Tableau desktop window, right? So before you actually open your dashboard, which you want to evaluate in terms of performance, the way to enable performance recording in Tableau is really very simple. Go to the help option on this toolbar up here, click on help, and under help, there's going to be a settings and performance option. So under settings and performance, if Tableau is not currently recording any performance or evaluating any dashboard or workbook for its performance, you see an option called Start Performance Recording. When we click this option, Tableau automatically starts tracking all the key events that happen when you open a workbook and how you normally navigate a dashboard or a workbook. So let's just do that. Let's start performance recording. All right. To ensure that the performance recording has started, you can just double check by going into help and settings and performance. Here you can see stop performance recording. This is an indication that, okay, Tableau is recording whatever's happening. So for the sake of the demo, I'm just going to go back to the good old sample superstore data set and a fairly simple dashboard. let me go ahead and click on this dashboard and open it up. All right, the dashboard should be visible now. Let me go into the presentation mode and just try to use make use of the dashboard like a normal user would. I'm going to try clicking on Texas here. We have a dashboard action that filters the entire dashboard based on the clicks on the map. So I've clicked on Texas. Okay, I've looked at the data. Maybe, okay, I want to go back to California and see how my sales versus profit scatter plot is looking. Okay, and then let's say I want to look at my technology sales only, right? So the bar chart on the bottom left is changing accordingly. Let's see how the dashboard changes if we are only looking at the standard class shift mode, right? Okay, now that we've looked at now that we've done some of the basic exploration of our dashboard, which we plan on putting in production, let me again go to help on this toolbar here. And now we're just gonna stop the performance recording, which Tableau has been running in the background while we were exploring the dashboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on stop performance recording. So as you can see on my screen, Tableau has given out a package Tableau workbook, which you can go ahead and save for further analysis. And if you need in-depth analysis of this, or if you're unable to interpret something on your own, you can always send this over to Tableau help and support as well. But now that we've done the performance recording and we have this performance recording workbook, which Tableau has generated for us, we want to know how actually we can interpret this, right? So a performance recording workbook contains two main dashboards, which is the performance summary dashboard, which you see on the screen currently, and there's the detailed events dashboard. So first, let's go over the performance summary dashboard. The performance summary dashboard contains three events, three main views, which are the timeline view, which is selected currently. Next, we have the events view, and this is just a query view. And this is useful when some of the times Tableau also tracks what queries it's executing. And here, as you can see, there's one executing query event happening here. So when I click on this, Tableau just displays what exact query has been executed at this event. So this can be really useful when you're dealing with live connections and have long running queries. You can always make use of this feature. But the timeline view basically shows the events which occurred during the recording. It arranges them chronologically from left to right, as you can see here. This is a fairly simple workbook, so we might not see longer events, but this timeline view arranges all the events that occurred right from the very start, chronologically from left to right. Now, this bottom axis shows the elapsed time since Tableau started in seconds. The S represents seconds here. And then the workbook dashboard and worksheet columns identify the context for events which are taking place. And then the event column identifies the nature of the event. As you can see here, this is connecting to data source, and this is rendering and similar sorts of events. Next, the middle view in the performance summary dashboard, we can actually navigate to the sheet by clicking on it and clicking on the go to sheet option here. So this performance summary, this events view basically shows us the events sorted by duration from greatest to the least. Events with longer durations can help you identify where to look at to know what's slowing the work down exactly. And then you can work your way around to by looking at the longest pole. It's called the longest pole. And then you can work your way around by trying to optimize that specific event which is taking the longest time. Next, we have the detailed views dashboard. And then this dashboard is basically the detailed version of the timeline view. And it shows all the events and separates individual items that were grouped in the timeline view in the performance summary dashboard. And this detailed views dashboard is typically intended for use by advanced users during workbook designs or optimizing workbook designs. And the detailed views dashboard has three main views, which are the depth view, the exclusive CPU events, inclusive CPU events, and then the elapsed time views. And then the depth view is the uppermost view in the detailed views dashboard. And this view basically, let's actually navigate to the sheet. This view basically provides insight into what happens when a specific request is made. This view is most useful when filtered to a single user request. Now, examples of user requests are such as loading a view, selecting a mark, or changing a filter. Each bar which you see here on the depth view represents a single activity. So an activity is a unit of work done as part of processing a single user request. And a single user request results in multiple activities again. So the length of each bar on the depth view is actually proportional to the elapsed time for the activity that the bar represents. So as you can see, you can keep on diving deeper into it. So this is actually a couple of slides which I shared earlier, where Ben Bosili actually had a very good session at TC21 on how to take a performant first approach in sort of, going about your workbook and dashboard design. And I'd highly recommend you check out Ben Bosili's session. It's probably available on YouTube, and I'll try to post the link shortly. And this is pretty much what you can do with the performance recording. And if you want to go into further detail about the performance of your workbooks, you can always, there's this open source tool called Tableau Log Viewer. You can download it from GitHub, and you can basically keep a track of all of your Tableau logs. Any questions so far?
That was a lot. So I will say this for everyone. Do this for all your dashboards. Before you get ready to publish Tableau Server, Tableau Online, do this and make sure that your dashboards, your data queries are running as optimal as possible. If it doesn't run great on desktop, it's not going to run great on the server or online. And this is a quick way, Mujahed kind of walked through, rather quickly on a lot of this. If this is your first time kind of looking at performance recording, you haven't used it before, it does take some time getting used to. I put a link into the chat. Hopefully that will help give you some more information about what it is and how to interpret. To Mujahed's point, there's a lot of also, if you go online, Tableau conference material on how to interpret recordings, how to maybe adjust the views that you just downloaded, maybe make it a little bit more digestible to see and understand what's going on. But it is critical to make sure that your dashboards are performing optimally. You don't want to necessarily have users point the finger at, hey, Tableau is a bad product, it doesn't perform well. You need to make sure that, as you're developing data sources and dashboards using best practice effective methods in place are there. So Mujahed, aside from kind of the blanket statement of go ahead and run it anytime you want, or for every dashboard, when is it appropriate and for users to run this? And can you also maybe cover the difference of why I'd run it in desktop versus, let's say your admin enabled the capability on server, where the difference lies in the performance recording on either?
Sure, just a moment. So if your server admin if your site admin has enabled performance recording on your site, then it's amazing, because that way you can actually take a look at the performance of your production dashboards, which are currently in use by your audience. And the way to do performance recording on server, to get a performance recording on the server, is just by altering your URL. You just need to add a little string called record performance equals yes. That way you can get a performance option on your server dashboard. I don't currently have a server instance open, but we can definitely point you to the resources on how to capture a performance recording on server. Now, when you capture a performance recording on server, this packaged workbook, which you see here on my Tableau desktop, instead of getting this Tableau desktop workbook, what Tableau server does is it opens up a new browser window and only returns the performance summary dashboard, just this dashboard, and you don't have access to the detailed views dashboard or any other sheets in the browser window that opens up. So let's say you see a executing query bar in the events sheet, which shows up on the browser window, and you click on it. So in the browser window, you're not able to see the entire query itself. So it's always helpful. You can, if you download that performance recording, server performance recording, which Tableau has generated in your server, to your PC locally, and then when you open that recording up, you get exactly this kind of view in your packaged workbook. And this will definitely help you investigate and go deeper into what's causing issues with your workbook, which is currently in production. Hope that answered the question, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to summarize, do the performance recording in desktop. While it could be accessible in server, the server is usually, multi-tenant, maybe shared environment over hundreds, if not thousands of people. So while your server may have better performance locally, again, if it doesn't run well in desktop, it's not going to run well in server. But this is how you can start troubleshooting. If something's published online, test it on desktop. If it runs great there, test it on server. There could be some issues going on in the server environment that are causing latency on a query. And if you're not seeing that at the desktop level, that's where you can show that maybe to your admins or support staff, and they can resolve it. But quick ways to do that. So I did want to touch real quick on Carl's question. Is there a quick way, a checklist of sorts that would help you identify what's going on, maybe wrong or right in your dashboard, and being able to address that? Mujahed, did you want to tackle that?
Yeah, so let me go back to the performance recording again. Okay, I guess it's visible, right? So here, let's say you have a rendering bar which is taking the longest here, right? And as we saw in the slide deck, let me go back to the slide deck. So let me share my, just a moment, I need to reshare my screen. Okay. All right. So the rendering time is basically the time Tableau is taking to render worksheets and visualizations based on the query results and calculations. So this tells us that, okay, it's let me go back and look at what kind of data connection I'm using. Is it a live or is it an extract? So when I go to my data source tab here, I see that the connection is a live connection. And then maybe I want to change it to extract and see how that's performing. Extracts are usually better in terms of performance. And then similarly, computing layout is the next longest event. So depending on what kind of events show up here, you work your way backwards based on the longest event and go back and try optimizing the rendering time, then go back and try to optimize the computing layout time. And computing layout probably has to do something with the size which I've selected, or maybe the type of containers I've selected here. So you need to sort of plug and play to see, and then at each step, capture a performance recording to see whether your performance is improving or not. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. I think bottom line is, again, Carl and everyone, it's not prescriptive, right? You can't just look at something and it's like, hey, your query's bad, do this, do that, do this to fix it. No, we're hoping that, in the future versions of Tableau, we're going to get, this best practice analyzer kind of built in that would give those recommendations. Supposed to be coming in 21.4, whatever release that might be. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to post in the chat a couple links. Bookmark those. Those are great resources for products that are coming soon. So the things that are in beta or alpha, that's where you're going to find information about the coming soon features. For everything that's been released and new releases, check out that new features link. That's everything in 21.4 right now. That is available. So all good stuff. Any questions or comments, go ahead and post them in the chat. But we're going to go ahead and switch gears and see if you've been paying attention today. Tiffany, you all teed up, ready to go for some Tableau trivia?
I'm ready to go. Let me share my screen.
All right, guys. So this is an interactive component of Tableau. I'll kind of turn it over to Tiffany, and she'll kind of walk you through what you need to do to get engaged. But you should get a link in the chat also. So if you want to participate, have an opportunity to win some really cool stuff today, go ahead and sign in, and she'll explain how this will all work.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And thanks, Mujahed, for the awesome demo. Can you guys see my screen? You should see game pin 8074736. I did also post it in the chat. So if you go to the link in the chat, you should be able to log right in without popping in the pin. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes. Feel free to put a nickname in there. And we'll get going as soon as we have most folks in the game.
So just a heads up, this is Tableau Trivia. So you're going to be presented with some multiple choice questions, some fill in the blank type stuff. We're going to start off by making it really easy and asking a few poll questions, kind of get to know you. After that, things become really serious. So we're going to ask you some questions. The quicker you respond, the more points you accumulate. And at the end of this session, top 3 participants who score the highest will get some really cool Tableau stuff.
Yep. Thanks.
No pressure. So hopefully everyone was paying attention today.
No pressure at all. I can't see a count of how many folks are in right now.
We've got 17 right now. So we'll give it another 10 seconds or so, and then we'll start the game. And this is mobile friendly too. So, do feel free to jump on your phone and get in on that too if you want.
All right, we ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right. All right, so this first one, really simple. What city and state are you located in? Excited to start seeing these word clouds come in. Wow, awesome.
All over the place.
Yeah, that's great. Love to see it.
All right.
All right, what is your experience level with Tableau? Are you just getting started? Are you a novice, intermediate, or advanced? Just a general poll to see where you guys are at. All right, a lot of intermediate, couple of novice, just getting started, and some advanced users. So good spread across the group. Are you interested in participating in virtual workshops? Yes, definitely, no thank you, or maybe. Nice. Awesome. Seems to be quite a bit of interest in virtual workshops. Our group is looking at hosting a series of virtual workshops over the coming year, so stay tuned for those. And what are you most excited to see in today's meeting? We have seen pretty much everything already. So originally we were going to do some of this trivia at the beginning. So what have you been the most excited to see? What's been the most exciting thing that you guys have learned today? Feel free to just put in a word.
What would you like to see? Yeah.
Or what would you like to see in coming meetings? There we go.
Hey.
All right. Show answers. Everything, new features, products, performance demo, tips and tricks, how to gather requirements, performance recording, testing speed, desktop performance. Yeah, a lot of performance features. Love it. Know your audience, clearer questions. Gathering requirements was great. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much to Hana for her amazing presentation, and Sam to Mujahed for the performance demo. It seems like everybody really enjoyed that. All right, it's time for trivia. Do you have something, Mike?
No, this is exciting.
All right, everybody
Everybody
ready? Cock your knuckles, get those fingers ready to go. All right.
Now, just a heads up, you will have about 10 seconds to answer most of these questions. So read quickly and find the best answer.
So where should the most important piece of data on your dashboard be located? Awesome, top left. Yeah, we generally recommend putting the most important piece of information where readers start reading. So as if you're reading a news article, you're going to start at the top left. That's where the eye is drawn to, and that's where we recommend putting that most important piece of data on your dashboard. And it looks like Matt Schmitz was the fastest, quickest answer on that one. Congrats to Matt. It is best to design dashboards with the sizing set to automatic. Is this true or false? False, yeah. We definitely recommend sizing based on what your audience will mostly be looking at. So if you're sizing to automatic as you're designing your dashboard, things might get a little bit wonky as it gets on different devices. So picking a standard size is definitely the recommended way to go.
Let's stick here just for a moment, because this kind of ties in with Mujahed's topic. When you set something to automatic and you've got maybe a multiple sizes of screens, big dash, or big monitors, little monitors, phones, etc., Tableau has to calculate and compute all those calculations and visualizations, and that could disrupt performance, because
Yes.
not a lot of things are getting cached. So this is actually an important aspect. If you let Tableau keep it at the default, which is automatic, and you're just publishing to Tableau and you're seeing inconsistent load times or renderings or inconsistent performance overall, give it a set value, something that's consistent, as Tiffany kind of mentioned. See how that goes.
Yeah, great recap. All right. Nice work, everyone.
New leader.
Really close already, though. Let's see.
Got to be quick on these.
All right, this is a multi-select question. So select all, which are crucial questions to consider before developing a data visualization. Nice work, everyone. Yeah, it's all of these. So who is the audience? What questions are they trying to answer? How much time will users spend within the dashboard? And what goals are we trying to accomplish? These are all really important questions to ask before you start developing, so you have a much clearer picture of where to go when you do start developing. Any questions or anything anyone wants to add to this?
No, this was great. All these are important.
All right, on to the next. Let's see how we're doing.
Jamie retains the lead.
Good job, Jamie. True or false? When gathering requirements for a project, selecting the tool that you will use is the first step. Wow, fast answers on this one. This one is false. So selecting the tool that you're going to use, while it's important, is definitely not a first step in the process. We should let the business requirements sort of dictate what that solution is, whether that's Tableau, Power BI, Excel, whatever that technical solution is, sort of comes a little bit later in that process.
And real before you click that next, a lot of this can be found if anyone's familiar with the Tableau blueprint. And if you're not, do check out Tableau blueprints. I'll post a link into the chat. And so it does kind of cover that. While it's branded Tableau, you can use it for anything. If you're using Power BI or some other tool, it's a methodology to implement for data culture and governance and support and community and all of these things. But choosing the right tool definitely doesn't, start right off the gate. So make sure you choose the right tool that's going to get the job done properly.
Yeah, awesome tip. Blueprint is a great tool. All right, Jamie's still in the lead. Good job, Jamie. True or false? It is important to build in time for ongoing requirements management through a project's life cycle. True. Yeah, I don't know if we explicitly covered this in Hannah's talk, but as much as we try to gather requirements upfront for a project, you guys all know, as you start developing, things come up, and maybe you find something that would be interesting to show that wasn't in the requirements, or maybe the stakeholder realizes there's something that they need that they didn't originally ask for. It's important to build in the time for those things. We know that it's going to happen, and if we can acknowledge it and just build it into our timelines, things will go much smoother and allow us for some iteration and improvements as we go. Any questions there? All right. Taylor taking the lead. All right.
Marie's on fire.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, what type of chart is generally the most effective way to represent patterns over time? Got some really quick answers on this one too. Line graph, yeah, generally most efficient and effective way to represent patterns over time. Things might change based on your specific needs, but generally line graphs are the recommended way to go when you're representing change over time.
Just happy nobody selected the pie chart.
Taylor's still in the lead, Marie in second, DM in third. You guys are doing great. This is another multi-select. Which of the following events are considered in Tableau's performance recording feature? All right, awesome. Yeah, it's all of them. So query execution, blending data, layout computations, and extract generation. So there's lots of stuff. There's options in here that that aren't included in this slide that are still a part of that performance recording feature. So Mujahed did a great job of demoing those features, but there's a ton in there. If you guys dig in, you can see all the cool stuff that this feature allows. Oh, DM taking the lead and on fire. Great job, guys. Which of the following views is not present in the performance summary dashboard created from performance recording? Server, yeah. As we talked a little bit about earlier, there is that server add-on, but it's not a specific view in the dashboard. It's going to give you that same performance dashboard, just in the context of how the performance is on the server. So the timeline, events, and query are those main views in the performance dashboard. Any questions there? All right, let's see. Oh, Taylor taking the lead. This is a close game. I'm biting my nails.
All right.
Let's see. Which of the following are potential downfalls of not gathering requirements before starting a project?
These are great questions.
Thank you. All right, yeah, it is all of the above. So misunderstanding the audience goals is definitely a huge potential downfall of not gathering requirements, but so is rework and so is scope creep. I don't think we specifically covered scope creep, but it does happen when you haven't clearly defined those requirements. Suddenly you might be building a dashboard that was way out of the scope of what you originally thought it was, but since you haven't clearly defined them, maybe you're backed into a corner to build that thing, or maybe the product isn't going to be as great as it would have been if we had defined those things early. So all of these things can happen without defining those requirements. Let's see where we're at. Taylor is still in the lead. Cynthia up to second and DM in third. Just got a few more questions. Let's see how it goes. True or false? It is best practice to avoid jargon, acronyms, and other complex phrasing in requirements for a project. That's true. We want to avoid anything too complex in the definitions and in the requirements for a project. Anyone should be able to understand. You should be able to read these user stories that you're creating and really get to the bottom of what it is that the goals are for the project. If we're putting a lot of jargon, acronyms, those things can get mistranslated. I'm sure that you guys have all seen cases where you thought an acronym stood for something, it turns out it stood for something else, or maybe there's 3 different interpretations of the same acronym. We want to avoid that. Just spell out all of the words and avoid anything too complex so that anyone can come in and understand those requirements. And let's see where we're at. Taylor in first, DM in second, and Crystal in third. This is a close game. All right, let's see what we got here. What is the name of the add-on that can be used to monitor the health and performance of your Tableau server?
I don't know that we actually really covered it too much today, but this is great.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, we got a lot of right answers. It is
All
called a
right.
resource monitoring tool. So all of these are other tools on here are add-ons for Tableau, but this resource monitoring tool is the one that specifically helps you monitor the health and performance of your server. Sounds like we might have a lot of server admins on the call today who have used this tool before. So that's great. Anything you want to add there, Michael?
Oh, fantastic. Likewise. I guess we got one more question left. So
Yeah, where are we at?
timing's everything.
Oh, Jamie creeps back up to second. Taylor in first, DM in third. Where is it gonna land? One more question.
No pressure.
True or false? The colorblind palette is the only way to design your dashboard with accessibility in mind.
Kinda like the picture you
last
used
question
for
a little freebie.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no.
Yeah, so it is
There you go.
false. There's a lot of ways to design with accessibility in mind. There's some great resources on Tableau's website that we can provide as well. That I did exploration into this too to see what those options are, because quite frankly, I don't know that I have always designed with accessibility in mind, but it is so important. There's lots of different tools that you can use, and you know, built-in functionality that Tableau allows for making sure that the users can really understand, digest, and observe things as they need to for accessibility. Are you guys ready for results? Drum roll.
Yeah, let's see it.
Third place, we have DM. Congrats, DM. Second place, Jamie L. Congrats, Jamie. First place, we have Taylor F. Well, congrats, guys. You guys will all be winning $35 gift cards to the Tableau store. Please pop your email address over to me or Michael in the chat, and we'll make sure that you guys get those gift cards sent over to your email address. Thanks, everyone,
Thanks
for
for
playing.
participating. This was great.
Yeah. Great job, everyone.
All right.
I can stop sharing here.
So we got a few minutes left. Did want to make sure we thanked our presenters again, Hana, Mujahed, Tiffany. Thanks a lot. Appreciate everything you guys do. If there's any other questions or follow-up, go ahead and post those into the chat. Otherwise, be sure to follow us on our community page. Posted those links into the chat. You can go to the usergroup.phoenixtug.com, subscribe to updates. We are just about to roll out our entire 2022 registration. So look for that soon. We talked about the workshops. So workshops will run quarterly. Our first one will be, was it January 22nd, I believe we said? Something like that. And our first meeting of the year will be January 20th. So we talked about 21.4 being the new release and all of these bells and whistles that are out there. If you're not running 21.4 or a current release in your organization, we get it, we understand that. Tableau Public, everyone. If you're not on Tableau Public, go out there, sign up. It's a free account, free software. You can download it on Windows, on a Mac. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you don't have either, you can now do it in the browser. So everything on Tableau Public is web enabled, which is really, really cool. This is how you keep your skills up to date with the latest and greatest. You don't have to wait for your organizations to roll out a new version to get comfortable with these capabilities. So please, Tableau Public, if this is the first time you're hearing it, we'll post the link into the chat. Again, it's free to sign up. Go ahead and do that. Claire asks, will we have any meetings in person? It's to be determined. Right now, we're of the mindset of keeping these virtual for now. If things change, we may do a limited in-person engagement, but for now, just anticipate that I'd say we're probably going to stick with virtual for the time being. All right, any other questions? If not, we appreciate everyone joining us today. We know that there's tons of user groups out there and you've got your pick each and every day to join. So thank you for all that. Took your time out today, hung out with us. We look forward to seeing you again next month. Be safe. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, New Year, and anything else that we missed. Great job again, everyone. Take care.